What's up, Bears? Eric here, and we're back again with another homophobic, probably, banger from Eric July. So we haven't talked a lot about him recently because he's been working on his comic and talking about his warehouse and stuff like that. So we haven't had a lot of like anti-queer content from Eric July. But I guess the homophobic quota ain't quoting. So he needs to make more stuff like this. I'll have to be honest with you, as someone who follows a lot of queer-centric, gay, trans stuff online, he always manages, or the people that he follows always manage to pull up random stuff that I've never even heard about. It's odd. I truly believe, and this is just me, I just suspect that maybe Eric wants to be an honorary member of the community. He wants to join like a pride event or something, maybe a Ripaverse float in a pride parade. We can have Isom on there. The Saska sisters are very queer friendly, very trans friendly. I'm sure they would be okay with Yaira showing up on a gay pride float. I don't know. Maybe we can work on it. Maybe we can make that happen. Anyway, he's got a video here. It's a short video. We sped it up a little bit. I've got the tempo sped up so we can get through it, where he's talking about a clip from a podcast. I watched a very short bit of it before I decided to make a video. But he's talking about a clip from a podcast that some random, homophobic person posted on Twitter, I believe. So let's listen to this and then talk about it, because I think it's quite interesting that we're back to the homophobia with Eric July. It's quite interesting. Let's see where this goes.
Jadzia Axelrod, I believe, is this person's name. And they are a writer of this Hawk Girl series for DC Comics. And they had some interesting things to say. It was brought to my attention. Let me give credit to where it's due.
So I don't understand. I thought you made a video before we get into this. I thought Eric made a video saying that he wasn't going to be talking about this stuff anymore. I clearly remember there was a video where he's like, his views have not changed, but he's not going to be talking about this anymore. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but I do believe that he made a statement saying that he wasn't going to be worried about this anymore. But here we are back again, I guess. Here we go.
Do really quick. Max actually shared this here. Now let's listen in and I'll tell you guys kind of what my thoughts.
So Max here says, I want to point this out in the tweet, says, this may be the most odd view of superheroes and comics I've ever heard. Now I did watch the clip. It's a very short clip. After the clip happens, I'm going to tell you why I understand why Jadzia is saying this. As someone who is gay, I can explain it in a way that will hopefully allow people who are not queer to understand before Eric goes on his tirade.
Here. Now let's listen in and I'll tell you guys kind of what my thoughts, my views on it. Let's listen in real quick.
Superheroes are a very queer kind of story, and that you have these characters who have these double lives, and one life is much more colorful and dynamic and exciting, but they also have to keep on this normal life. Most superheroes are in the closet, either literally in some cases or in a more metaphorical way of like, I have to keep my secret identity. That's important. And so it's very relatable stuff to a queer reader, very relatable stuff to a trans reader. Bodies are frequently mutable in superhero comics, which is something I love. So like all of this stuff was already in there when I read them, whether it was intended or not. So to tell a story where all of this stuff is not just subtext, but literally what's going on.
Okay. I'm going to pause it before Eric goes off here, because he's going to say a bunch of stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with what she said, and we're going to call him out on that. But I want to point out, let me make this very clear on people that may not be understanding why Jadzia says this. So as a queer person, you have options growing up. You can either be out and open to the world about your true identity, who you are, or you can pretend to be someone else because you know that you're going to get backlash. You know, you're going to get harassed for it. Maybe people you love are going to get harassed for it, which is very similar to how superheroes operate. They fly around, they do things a superhero, and then they hide their secret identity because they know that puts their family in jeopardy. It puts their lives in jeopardy. So that is the dichotomy that she's talking about there, is that superheroes are relatable to queer people for that reason. And as someone who read X-Men growing up almost exclusively for many years, I can say that, yes, that is something that a lot of gay people, trans people, bi people, people under the umbrella see in those stories. This isn't some hot take or controversial opinion. This is, as a reader, this is how you can identify with characters, how you imprint on characters that you're reading. And this happens with any kind of media you're reading, whether it be a book, a comic book, a movie, music. This is why people can listen to lyrics of a song and have different opinions about it, because this is how you consume media. This is how you live through the media that you're reading or listening to or watching. So this isn't a new take. And as far as bodies being mutable, she's simply talking about the fact that superheroes can change shape. You can go from Bruce Banner to the Incredible Hulk. You can do, there's Plastic Man. There's characters that can shapeshift like Mystique. So these things are literally happening in comics. They are things that are actually happening in comics. They aren't just allegories. They are things that you see happening in the comic books. There's nothing in her opinion on that or her revealing things that are happening in the comics that is wrong. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Now, you may disagree with the way she views it and go, no, well, this is how I view it. But you cannot say that her takeaway and how she has viewed media over the years is wrong, because it is subjective. It is how someone consumes the media and translates the media that they're reading and watching. And I'm pretty sure, just like with the Rippaverse, if you were to ask 5 people how they perceive things in the Rippaverse comics, they might be different. So this is how people view media. Everybody does it. Every single person does it this way. Let's hear what Eric has to say.
All right, so this person's focus, I guess, is putting trans stuff in comic books. At least from what I pick up, I don't want to straw man the position, but I will speak on it.
But see, literally, that is a straw man. She didn't say that at all in that clip. How did you take that away from the clip? That she wants to put trans stuff in everything from that clip? You can't be that fucking dumb, right? So either you're just making shit up here to get outrage clicks and hits from your audience. That wasn't what that clip was. Is there another clip that you watched? Did we watch the same clip?
Bit of what she was saying at the beginning of whatever it is. I'm assuming that both of these people are trans. If I'm correct on that, my apologies on that. Nonetheless, narcissism is what some people call it. I don't know what it is, but I think.
Well, you put narcissism in your title. So you're saying that's what some people would call it, and then you say, I don't know what it is, but it's literally in your title, Narcissism of the Modern Writer. So are you some people?
What these folks don't seem to understand is why people take such issue with that is because you make then sexuality basically the defining trait. Not even just that, but you then make it about you. So, like, for example,
but there was no discussion of sexuality or trans in that, other than the stuff that the way you see the characters. She didn't mention any specific characters. She didn't mention any specific storylines. She didn't mention anything like that. She was simply talking about how she views those stories, how she personally views those stories. There was no mention of sexuality in what she said.
Word something like superheroes are queer, or it's a very queer story, and you don't look at it like, I mean, granted, you went on.
She didn't say all superheroes were queer. That's another misrepresentation of what she said.
To explain, well, you find these people find it relatable, but then you're using these terms, whether it be with call them queer flat out, or just saying that they're in the closet, because then you're trying to project yourself onto this character.
Well, I mean, that's how everyone views media. That's why people do cosplay. That's why people love these stories so much, because they see something in these characters that they admire, or something that's interesting, or something they love. They relate to those characters, and then that's how they interpret what the characters are doing. I mean, do you not care about the stories of the characters? Do you not care about their personal lives? I can't imagine that's true, because Isom's first issue dealt quite heavily with Avery not being a superhero. So is it just the fact that there could be characters that aren't straight or that aren't cis? Is that the issue you have with it? Or is it just all, character or writers writing characters that they feel like they know about or that they can relate to? She was talking about how she views the media.
And that shows obviously in some of the writing that we've seen from modern, both Marvel and DC and other major publishers as well. But the issue isn't the relatability, right? That's not the problem. And I want to be clear about that, because anybody can produce something, and inevitably speaking, if it resonates with people, they're going to somehow find some level of relatability with it. That's inevitable.
Okay, so then what's the problem then? What's the issue with, if that's what you're saying, then that clip was literally how she was relating to the characters, how she viewed the characters. So if you don't have an issue with that, then what's the point of this video other than to be homophobic and transphobic? What's the point? What is the point? Because if you're insisting that there's some sort of narcissism for writing characters that represent who you are as a person, does that mean if a straight person writes a straight character that they're narcissist? Or if a person of color writes a character that's of color, that they're being a narcissist? Or if somebody who's religious writes a character that's religious, they're being narcissist? I don't understand that correlation.
What you're doing is different. It's more a projection. It's more of, well, this is who you are. This is your defining trait. This is everything it is about you. And therefore, this is reflective of these characters, regardless of whether or not that is the attention, because that's what it is that you said.
Yes. When someone reads a story and they perceive something to be a certain way, then that is their takeaway from that story. However, in that clip, nowhere did she say she was writing characters for that reason. Now, again, in that podcast, there may be more to it, so I'm not going to defend that stance, but we're talking specifically about that clip, the clip that you showed. So where in that clip did she say anything like that? I didn't see that in that clip.
And that's the thing that people take issue with, because you can't even deviate, or rather detach yourself from that storyline, because as you say right here, and I guess that's obviously the topic of discussion it is that you're having. Well, that's what these stories it is that you're telling. It's well beyond the subtext now.
So you're saying people can't detach. So you're saying because now that she has said that superheroes are a very queer kind of story, in her opinion, because again, without explicitly stating it was her opinion, it clearly was in her opinion. Because that's her takeaway. Now you can't have a different opinion on it. That now that she said that is the law of the land. It's the rules. You cannot have another subjective opinion about art, because she has said something now that, gavel down. Judges have ruled that all superheroes are queer now. I don't think that was the purpose of that statement, or I mean, it seems very disingenuous. I don't think that's what she was saying, because I don't necessarily see that in every character either. But I don't think that's my place, because that is how she's consuming the media. It's how fan fiction works. It's how people that read stories, how those communities grow with people that talk about, hey, what did you like about it? What did I like about it? Oh, okay, let's see if there's anything we agree on here. That's how that works, man.
Because you've already made it about you, and now you want to make it more obvious. It's really akin to kind of what happened with the old Disney thing. And they're saying that Reimagined Tomorrow, that internal meeting, and that one chick that was like this whole, she was saying in jest, excuse me, that it's this not so secret gay agenda, something along those lines of what it is she's saying. It's them basically saying this is what it is that we're going to do. This is our intention, and we're going to use these characters, and we're going to use this brand in order to do it. And that's the type of stories it is that they want to tell.
No, those are two completely different things. You're talking about somebody who worked for Disney at an upper level and I believe it was an internal memo or internal meeting they were having, and that comment was made. That's completely different from this situation, because the clip that you showed is a person talking about how they viewed the media. I don't know how many times I have to say this. That's just her take on the whole concept of being a superhero. There's nothing specific there in what she was saying.
And if that's the story they want to tell, then okay.
Okay.
But you can't take issue. Well, you can, and you will. And I guess it goes both ways, right? Because other people are going to take issue with you using these characters as a vehicle to tell this story. And then they're going to feel some kind of way. Now, for me, my reaction isn't even like that anymore, because I'm no longer a customer.
Wait. Did you just tell on yourself? I think there was a mental battle going on here in this comment that he made, or these comments he made, because he said he's not even a customer anymore. That goes back to my original comment that he said he wasn't going to be making content like this anymore. So if you're not a customer about, of these stories, and you've got your own thing going on, then why are we even talking about this random podcast, this random little clip? Why are we even talking about this? Let's go back here for a second with this comment he made.
And then they're going to feel some kind of way. Now, for me, and you will, but you can't take issue. Well, you can, and you will.
Right. You can't take issue. So he was about to say that someone who is like reading media or watching movies or whatever cannot have a personal issue with something that they're reading, whether it be good or bad, right? Can't take issue with it. But he says, yes, you can. And then
I guess it goes both ways, right? Because
yes, it does go both ways, meaning that if you have an issue with something that they think or see or hear or whatever, when it comes to media, then they have every right to feel the way they want to feel about it, because that is the way art works. It's the electricity in the brain is going off there. And so he has to do damage control. And here's his damage control.
Because other people are going to take issue with you using these characters as a vehicle to tell this story.
And now he's going to sort of do this thing where, oh, well, I'm not reading them anymore, so it doesn't matter to me, because he just realized that his entire argument, he destroyed his entire argument in that
And
statement.
then they're gonna feel some kind of way. Now, for me, my reaction isn't even like that anymore, because
Oh,
I'm
it's
not,
not.
I'm no longer a customer of the modern stuff that comes out of Marvel and
Okay.
DC. So it's never mind that to me. But for a lot of normies, and we're seeing it starting to increase, they're getting turned off by this sort of attitude that
Are they really? Where's the citation on that? I want to see some numbers. If you're going to make a statement like that, I believe you should probably add some numbers in there to tell us, hey, this is why this is happening. Where are the studies being done on that?
is in mainstream comics.
All right, we're going to stop it there because now he's just going to advertise for about 30 seconds of his video. That video was what I like to call a nothing homophobic, transphobic video. That's really what it is. It's made for outrage clicks. It's made for people that have nothing to do. They see a clip and they're like, I want to complain about gay people. I want to complain about trans people. So let me make a quick video, because there was nothing of value being added there. And the reason why he ended it when he did is because he realized with that last statement about you can't take issue with this. Oh, I guess you can, because then it goes both ways, because then other people could take issue with it and then they could complain about it. Oh, but I have no dog in the fight because I'm not even a customer anymore. And then normies. And this is why people hate mainstream comics. It was a very quick wrap up at the end of that video, because I think he realized at that point that his argument didn't hold any water. So based on that clip and that clip alone, it was very obvious to me that she was talking about the way she views comics and the way queer people can view superheroes as an allegory for being a queer person. And yes, it does make sense. If you're a queer person, if you're a gay person, you're a trans person, then all of that does make sense. It does not require a straight person or a cisgender person to validate that and go, you are allowed to consume this media and translate this media and take in this media the way that we want you to. That is not the way the world works. You do not get to do that. That is not your right to afford to people who are not straight, who are not cisgender. We are allowed to take away from media however we want. That doesn't make it narcissism. That's just another buzzword. You put it in your title, even though you act like you weren't the one that said that. But yeah, narcissism, it's not that. Could it be some projection? I guess in some cases you could project a little bit on a character if that character is not actually a queer allegory. But at the end of the day, it is more of a takeaway of what you're reading, of what you're consuming. And there's been a lot of characters over the years that have been queer coded because of the restrictions and the rules on the way they could be portrayed in comic books, which was outdated and archaic. And I'm glad they got rid of it when they did. And now we're seeing more of that happen. But you can't spout off numbers and go, oh, people don't like mainstream comics because of this reason specifically, which is diversity in comics, and then not give us any sort of citation or study or anything like that. You don't get to do that. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. Look, I hope that Alpha Core coming out really soon takes up a lot of your time, because going back to this stuff looks really sad. Simply because you're talking about something that you said you weren't going to be talking about anymore, because I think you've realized that there's been a little drought and you're trying to get some outrage clicks. And yeah, that's not a good look. So, ignore this video from him. Don't listen to this outrage stuff. Straight people that talk about topics like this have no idea what they're talking about, because they're just trying to be homophobic and transphobic. And it's pretty obvious from this clip.